Hello everybody, welcome back to the Tone Harry's podcast. Before we get into it there, we just want to remind people that we're supported through Danny Donovan at quickminutes.com.
Yeah, Danny's a very good friend of both myself and James. He comes from the north side as well, and he grew up locally, and he's been a massive supporter of the podcast and both myself and James since we actually began. And he has his own company called Quick Minutes now, and
quickminutes.com is a meeting management application for semi-formal and formal meetings. And look, if you want to know more about that, quickminutes.com, and supporting Danny's supporting us. So if you're interested in that, check them out and enjoy the rest of the podcast. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Tone Harry's podcast. I am your host James and I'm joined by my good friend Timmy Long.
Hi everyone.
Rowan is on the deck. Say hi Rowan.
Hi Rowan.
Thomas is in the audience. Say hi Thomas. Hi. And we have two inspirational young people here that have come through the Cork Life Centre. We've had Dan O'Leary back in the early days of the podcast, who's the director. And we're going to get to know you and your journeys through education and what you're doing today, which is great. I'm going to start with ladies first. Amber.
Great.
Amber, how are you?
Good.
Thomas, will you pass me up the book Amber brought in for us, please? Amber. 1 second, Jano. I don't know what that is in Japanese, Thomas. Japanese is a... Thomas is a Japanese speaker.
Arigato asamasu.
Yeah. Thomas is a Japanese speaker. No way.
That was probably Chinese.
Yakisoba on the way home. Amber Sheridan O'Callaghan, and you brought us a lovely book. Can you get that one?
Back towards the face.
Thank you for that. For the people that don't know you, do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from?
My name is Amber O'Callaghan. I'm from Cork. I'm 23 years old and I just finished my degree in psychology.
Very good. Where did you do that in UCC?
No, in Waterford.
Waterford IT?
Yeah, I kind of just wanted to get out of Cork as soon as possible.
See the world?
Yeah.
What part of Cork are you from?
Glanmire, kind of like the country.
Yeah, so that's where all the posh Norries go when they get the price of a house. Yeah.
Very good.
What schools did you go to when you were younger?
So I went to a school in Glanmire, secondary school, and then when
Was that the one by Brook Lodge?
Yeah. And then when that wasn't working out, I moved to the Life Centre.
What was secondary school like for you before you went to the Life Centre?
Well, even from primary school, I was bullied my whole life.
Okay.
By students, by teachers, everyone really. So my brother went to the Life Centre as well. So once I kind of wanted to get out of education, I kind of just followed his path into the Cork Life Centre.
Was it just bullying, or was there any learning differences?
Yeah, well, I'm dyslexic as well, which I never really took notice of. But in secondary school, I don't really pay attention to the kids that can't learn as fast or as well as other kids. So then when I went to the Life Centre, they were able to cater for that.
Amazing. Yeah. Fair play.
How did can you remember your first days in the Life Centre?
Yeah.
Were you nervous?
Yeah, I remember my sister was volunteering there as well.
She had a good family connection to the place, so.
Yeah. And a school that was in GCC, no, a teacher that was in GCC. I think he was actually the only teacher I liked in that school. He was volunteering in the Cork Life Centre as well. So I met him on my first day, which was really comforting.
Yeah.
What was the actual difference in the two schools? How different were they?
Well, in the Cork Life Centre, they actually pay attention to you and they're actually there to like hear you and listen to you. It's one-to-one teaching, so you kind of have like more of that education where like it's actually focused on you and they alter education in a way to help you learn better, if that makes sense.
That makes so much sense. I suppose what they're really doing so is when Amber comes in, we're looking at her strong points.
Yeah.
And we're going to work with Amber's strong points and give her the best education she can possibly get.
Yeah, like when I went there, I didn't really know what my strong points were. So Don kind of like got me involved in like every subject to kind of figure out what I was interested in. So in secondary school, I didn't like English at all. I didn't go to the class. But then in the Life Centre, the teachers were different. It's all about teachers as well, like actually connecting with them. Like if you see a teacher as a friend, then you're actually going to want to learn. And that's where I found my love for English.
I suppose if they give you that bit of respect and they treat you nicely.
Yeah, and like we talk to them like on first name basis, and it wasn't like, oh, you're better than me. It was like, we're all on the same level here. We're just helping each other.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I think the relationship with the teacher is vital because I remember when I was in secondary school, I dropped out of history and geography, and I loved those subjects, but I just didn't get on with the teacher. And I think it was a shame, really. Like, there was a lot of potential there for me with those subjects, but I just gave it up after my junior cert, you know. And later on in college, then, because I got on with the teachers, the lecturers in UCC, and they showed me a lot of respect, and I wanted to show them how much I appreciated them with the quality of work I would hand up. So I would give it my best shot to show them that I appreciated that I was here, and I appreciated, you know, the relationship and the time that they would give me. So, like, you could, you know, have a terrible time with English in school and then go to a different school and do the exact same subject, but with a different teacher, and you could thrive in it, you know what I mean? It's just important for people to hear that had bad experiences in school and think that that's not for them, or they can't do that. Because if you do that in another setting, in another time in your life, you might have way different results.
Yeah, that's actually fair comment.
Yeah. Lee, how's the farm, boy?
Good by yourself.
Not too bad. Where's you, Lee?
20.
Where are you from?
From Kinsale.
Nice little part of the world.
Yeah, it's lovely, especially this time of year,
Yeah. We were down in Kinsale a few weeks ago sailing into wellness.
I swear, yeah.
Do you do that?
I have never done it. I've done sailing for years, like, but I haven't done that one in particular.
Do you do that down there, Thomas? Yeah, sailing into wellness. We did a podcast with Colin Healy there recently. It's a social enterprise, brings people in recovery out onto the sailing boat around Kinsale. But what schools did you go to, or did you go to school?
Yeah, I went to school in Kinsale up until 5th class, and then I left there. Before I got to the Life Centre, I was probably in about 8 or 9 different schools. But I was in care as well, like, so I was constantly getting moved to different houses. So hence I was moving to different schools. Yeah,
that's difficult, I'd say.
Yeah, I was annoying. Like, I never even liked education until the Life Centre. It's well different inside there, like, you know.
Is it different? Like, I can only imagine really what it's like being moved from home to home and then starting over again all the time.
Yeah. That was why I initially started disliking school in the first place, is because when I was 11, I was in 5th class, and they were like, "No, you're going to be leaving your family, blah blah blah." But I was more annoyed about leaving school because they were all the people I grew up with, you know. And from then on, I had like a resentment towards them wanting me to go to school. I was like, "No, I'm not going to school for you because you won't let me go to school with my friends." So I probably ended up missing out on about 3 years of education over that, like.
I know, and like when you think about starting a new school or a new job or a new anything, it can bring up a lot of fear and anxiety no matter who you are. But if you have to do that every few months as a child, like, that's a very difficult. I can understand why you wouldn't want to go to school, or why you would get a resentment with education, you know.
So you went through 8 schools.
I'd say about that. Yeah, I was in about 4 or 5 schools down here. I was in school up in Dublin, Clonmel, and then finally I heard about the Life Centre through a guy called Matthew. He does a bit of work with me from the north side. He's like, "Do you know Springboard at all?"
Yeah,
I heard that place.
They're up in Knockney.
That fella Matthew, he put me onto the Life Centre, and I went in and I said to Dan, I said, "Look, I want to get my education. I'm nearly in 3rd year now, like, and if I don't do it now, I'm gonna have nothing, like." And from then on, went in there, done my junior cert, leaving cert. It's great, like.
For somebody that went through so much in education, all right, already at that point in your life, fair play to you.
Nice.
For actually wanted to still get an education, because
exactly. I just realised, because a lot of my family didn't have education, and I just knew that was the key to, you know, making a better life for myself, like.
100%.
And how did you get that awareness? Like, was there people working in the care centres that helped you, or did you have it in you?
I think it was them in the care centres, but at the same time I was seeing lots of people in my own family go down the wrong road, putting 2 and 2 together. I was like, I need to do something else, you know. And it hasn't always been like, I've been like, you'll mess up every now and then, but look.
I know, but you know what? What you talk about there is like, there's a family history, right? It would have been the most straightforward thing in the world to you just carry on that and not have the awareness. But to have that awareness at such a young age is a unique thing to have. So there was an innate intelligence in you there that other people helped you to kind of fulfill your potential. You know, and you're still only a young man.
Yeah.
But it wasn't straightforward road either. You know, you had your challenges along the way.
Yeah, exactly.
When did you go into the Life Centre? What age were you?
I think I was 15 or 16.
Can you remember your first days?
Yeah.
What was it like?
I was nervous. Didn't know. I didn't know anyone there actually at all. I think I might have knew one guy, but they were very welcoming. Like, and here, like when I went in there, and you have the maximum students would ever be in a class, for me was 3, like, and that was perfect because like I don't learn at the same pace as 30 other people in a classroom. And then if you're falling behind, like exactly, if I'm there falling behind, the teacher's getting annoyed at me because I can't keep up with everyone else, like, and it's just a vicious cycle. Then, like,
and then you start getting stressed,
Yeah,
and you start going into your head, is there something wrong with me? Why am I different to everybody else?
Exactly, yeah.
I completely relate, yeah.
And the beauty of the Life Centre as well is the likes of Dan and Thomas, like, they're not over your shoulder, like, what grades you get in school, you know, what grades you get in that.
Yeah.
That's important, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's how are you doing emotionally, physically, psychologically.
Exactly.
Are you happy?
Yeah.
It's the main thing really, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the way schools should be.
Yeah.
It's about the development of the young person.
Exactly.
In all aspects.
There should be more of an emphasis, more of an importance around how to get a young person ready for life.
Exactly, yeah.
Educate them, educate completely, but get them ready for life. Let's teach them around emotions, how to handle emotions, you know, meditation, implementing nice routines into their lives around healthy foods, maybe some fitness.
Social skills as well, like,
exactly.
Even, like,
you know.
Now, you were telling me there a while ago you got out of prison in October.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not really interested in what you were in for. It's not really relevant. But what was life like for you when you left the Life Centre? Obviously, if you ended up in prison, it got a bit difficult for you.
So, like, remember when lockdown came in there, when the first COVID happened, that was when I was supposed to be doing my exams. So we were out of school due to the lockdown, and all the results were going to remember they were judging the grade on themselves, like, so that's how the way my ones ended up. But then when that came in, I don't know, everything just kind of fell apart. Then no school, no structure, I had nothing, and I wasn't expecting to be out of school. Like I would have been preparing myself for leaving. So then I don't know, drugs. I was using a lot of drugs as well at that time.
Boredom kicked in there massively
big
as well.
time, like. And I was living in one of the care homes as well, like, so I wasn't able to travel down to Kinsale to my family over all the COVID routes, you know.
So how was it living in a care home around COVID?
It was.
be difficult
I was
enough.
over 18 at this stage, so it was a step down centre, so it was a lot easier. So I wouldn't have actually known what it would have been like to live with 4 or 5 staff around you 24/7, like, but it was.
But you know what, like, we've all been impacted by COVID, like, but you know, it must have been very difficult for children in care, you know, not to have the access for the visits and to be able to get out and stuff like that.
100%.
I know, I was only thinking about it now, like.
It is, and I was just thinking of it myself there. I was trying to put myself into that position of, you know, I suppose if you're inside in a care home, you're only out. Your only break really is going to school and interacting with other children and having a bit of crack or whatever, and then you have to go back there, you know.
What was it like in prison for you? Was it your first time going to prison?
I was in Orberstown when I was younger, when I was 14 or 15, like, but it was obviously nothing like that. It wasn't the best, like, but I don't want to go back there, do you get me?
No, definitely.
It wasn't rough, like, but you just don't want to go back either.
Yeah, what was Orberstown like?
It was grand, yeah. It wasn't too bad. That was one of the spot places that actually made me focus on my education as well. They had a great education up there, you know. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I don't want this life at all. Like, started focusing. Then as soon as I came out of there, that's when I got onto Dan. And I said, Dan, I want to do my leaving cert or my junior cert by. And from then on, I was in it for myself basically. So Dan would never put pressure on me because he'd be like, what's the point of me putting pressure on you if you're not doing it for yourself? Like, so
brilliant,
good outlook, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we'll come back, John. Amber, how are you?
Good.
You have a few notes in front of you there. I know you were mad to hide them.
Nobody really uses their notes when they get to this table, though. But
it's important if you have stuff you want to talk about, you know. I seen you on the Oireachtas TV. You spoke to senators and TDs in the Oireachtas there 12 months ago, was it?
Yeah.
What was it like? Were you nervous?
I was, but it was a lot less nerve-wracking than this is.
Oh, really?
Yeah. because I knew I was speaking on behalf of young people. I knew I had to make a point, and I knew I had to try to change their minds on education and on funding the Life Centre. So it was a lot easier.
Yeah, and you've done as well. And when you've done by your side, you know you can do anything. Like
he was literally behind me on my shoulder.
I know.
It also goes to show how passionate you are about the Life Centre and how much it helped you, because when you're that passionate about something, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
And you can just go for it. It doesn't matter who's listening, doesn't matter who's over there, who's saying what, you're just going to go for it and you're going to speak your reality.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you spoke about?
So I kind of spoke about the effects of secondary school education and how different it is to the Cork Life Centre. And I spoke about why the Life Centre needs funding, because not every child fits into one box of secondary school, and how every kid learns differently and stuff like that.
And how did they take it?
They seemed to be open about it, but every time you'd kind of ask them a question, they would kind of dance around the subject and move on.
Typical.
Yeah.
Typical.
It's like they were there to listen to us, but not hear us.
Yeah.
How did you feel afterwards?
I felt good for getting my points across, but nothing was done about it. And I didn't expect anything to be done about it, but
nothing was done about it immediately.
Yeah.
But knowing things like that, you're planting the seed you're trying to build momentum for change that might happen. Like that whole system will change very, very slowly.
Yeah.
But it's only with input like that won't change at all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you mightn't see the change the next day, but something will happen down the line because of that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think what James is saying, he's 100% right. And it's the education system will be one of those places where it's going to be slow, because it's so old and so structured, and they don't like change. But it's one of these things that has to change eventually, and it will happen eventually, where you'll see a lot more schools like the Life Centre, and they will tweak the education around the child's needs, the person's needs, instead of one shoe to fit all. It's not like that anymore. There's so many children these days with different learning differences and different needs in the education system, and we have to tweak every child's individual requirements around that, you know, because there's so many children slipping through the cracks, you know, and they're just left there. They're not children that are disruptive or anything like that. I was one of these kids, you know, in the school as well. You know, unfortunately, I didn't have the Life Centre like ye, but there are so many children just like us, you know, who just need a different education to the norm. And that's what's very important. And by you talking up there and us talking here and everybody else, whoever is an advocate for what we're doing here, doing their thing, you know, it's the seed, and that seed is starting to get bigger and bigger, and it will change. I know it'll change. I've no doubt in my mind. It'll have to change, because we can't keep going the way we are. Because there's too many children slipping through the cracks.
Yeah, we're talking about changing the Leaving Cert to, instead of just 100% exams, to try to incorporate assignments or projects, or even small classroom tests, instead of at the end of each semester putting all the kids into a big hall and putting everything they've learned down on a piece of paper. So we're trying to see how that could be changed to help kids get the grades that they actually deserve.
And the thing is, if you could be English, let's say, you could know everything there is to know about Macbeth or whatever it is that come up in the Leaving Cert. But if you're being bullied, I know you weren't at this time, but just let's say you were. If you're being bullied and you're under stress because of that, or if you're in a care home and you're under stress because of that, it's very hard for you then to remember what you need to remember on the day of the test. You might know everything there is to need to know about that question, But on that given day, an episode has happened at home or in the neighbourhood, and you can't recall it. It's a very unfair way for assessment for people, you know, that have difficult backgrounds, you know. So having to continue, and I know continuous assessment has been brought in slowly but surely for some subjects. But I'd love to know how you found the UC or the university experience and psychology. I remember when I was going through college and started learning about psychology, I got a huge awareness around myself and why I was the way I was, why things happened the way they happened, and my family and my neighbourhood. Did you get that too?
Yeah. Well, mostly back to Leaving Cert when I was doing I think it was the pre-Leaving Cert, doing an art exam. At the time I was going through like a lot of trauma, and during the exam, whatever was happening, but I was getting a lot of flashbacks and I wanted to leave, and I did. And Don was there to actually like help me and say, look, you don't have to do this. You can go back in a minute, like take your time, take a breath, and just literally do what you want, really, because it's just an exam. And I think that really changed my whole view on education, and to kind of like put my mental health first. What was your question?
Just like
That was me all the time.
Oh, when you were learning psychology, when you were learning psychology,
Normal.
when you were learning psychology in college, did you get an awareness around why you were the way you were? Like why you were, like why things didn't work out for you? And because, but the way, I suppose I put it this way, when I was growing up and even in my 20s, I felt like I was no good, and all I was good for was taking drugs, and that was my identity. And then when I went to college, I started learning about different psychological theories, childhood development, and then I began to think, maybe I'm not, maybe I was thinking like that because this happened, or maybe this is my personality because of this event. So I started to join the dots.
Yeah.
Was there a bit of that down there?
Like, to be honest, I didn't really do psychology to help other people at the start. It was all about myself. And so like when I was 15 and 16, I went through sexual trauma, and I went on to study psychology so I could learn about why he did what he did, what was going through his head. And I was really like obsessed with the fact of trying to figure out like why people do this. So when I went into psychology, I was trying to find all those answers, and I was learning a lot about child development, and I learned a lot about my own background and how these past traumas can affect you in all sorts of ways, like the neurons in your brain, and like they all like get killed off every time you go through a traumatic event. So it was really interesting, but it was only till my second year of college I actually realised that I'm not going to find the answers that I want by studying this, and that if I'm going to continue on with this course, I might as well do it so I can help other people instead of trying to find answers that don't exist.
Yeah, you won't.
Yeah.
Like you won't get the answers in an academic course. You get those answers through therapy and, you know, working through those traumas. Is there anything you've done since the sexual event happened or since that time that has helped you? Was there counselling or anything at all?
Yeah, when I was in the Life Centre, Don always persuaded me to do counselling. And at the start, I hated it. I even walked out of it multiple of times.
It's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, being really angry and everything, because she'd just say it straight out, like, what happened that night? How does it make you feel? And I was like, no, this is not happening, actually. I refuse to accept this. So I used to walk out quite a lot, throwing tantrums, leaving the school, and I wouldn't even recognise myself now if I seen that. But eventually I did start to think, okay, this actually is helping me. No matter how angry I'm getting, it is helping me. So I stuck with that counselling. And then when I graduated, Don offered me to continue my counselling, which I did. So I went to the Sexual Violence Centre in Cork. And then I went to Waterford. I continued counselling there. I've been to a lot of counsellors. And I just feel like everyone kind of not needs to have a counsellor, but they need someone there to talk to.
If the whole world had a counsellor, the world would be a nicer place. You know, and we always say we did 12 steps as part of our recovery we did counselling and all these other things, but like if everybody did the 12 steps, there is some awareness. You don't have to have addictions to do personal development. You don't have to have like eating disorders or gambling or anything like that. A bit of personal development is very helpful, no matter who you are, to understand your triggers, to deal with your baggage. It'll help you in all other aspects of your life. Yeah,
it really helps you to like learn to like get to know yourself. Like ever since counselling in the Life Centre, I've kind of like loved self-development now. Like I'm always even saying to my friends, like, look, if I do something wrong, say it to me. I'm not going to get angry. Yeah. You know, I just want to know so I can improve.
So me and Timmy are still doing professional or personal development. Yeah. But Lee, have you done anything like what Amber has done?
Yeah, like therapy and machine psychologists and stuff like that. I've been going to see them since I was young. But I find it helpful. At the start, up until I was about 15, I just felt like it was a burden to be going to them, but I was only going to them because I had to. But then when I was like 15, 16, 17, my own minds just started to deteriorate, like just had bad depression and stuff like that. So when I started going to them to help myself, they were very beneficial, like And as you said about learning your triggers and all that, like I'm well more aware of all that now. Yeah. I went to Pierre House too, they were very good.
Very good, yeah. And are you doing anything at the moment, sorry?
I haven't been, no. And I said to myself when I came out, like, that I didn't want to go back to them because I've been going to them for 10 years, like. But if I ever feel like I do need to go back, I will. But personally, my mind's in the best place it's ever been, thankfully.
That's great to hear. Do you link in with the Cork Alliance at all?
I've never linked in with them, no.
Might be worth checking them out. They support people that have been in prison.
And education as well.
They were instrumental in myself and Timmy's recovery, you know?
Yeah.
And even going back to what Amber said there again, we'll go about her own course where she started to learn about her own childhood and stuff and how it may have affected her going on and forward in her life with self-esteem issues, confidence, maybe security. You know, when you understand all these things as well, and you know that none of it was your fault, you can have that little bit of care for yourself and compassion and empathy for yourself, and love, you know, whereas you probably didn't have before, because you like, I'm speaking from my own experience, you know, when I did learn, and I was in my 30s learning all this, it really helped me massively, you know, and it's very important that we do get an education, because without the education, we don't understand that.
Exactly.
You know, and Amber can relate to that too. We don't understand the wording around it, the emotional stuff around it, you know, the head stuff around it. So that's where education is very important for anybody that has been traumatized in their lifetime to be able. But then again, like there's also another side. If you like to go really deep within yourself through meditation and gain a real strong form of acceptance and surrendering to the way you're feeling stuff is another way, but it's a long-term way as well. But I always believe the education and the knowledge around your own life and the trauma is very important as well, because it's really kind of light bulb just goes on your head. And
definitely,
You know what I mean, James?
And if you're ever, like, if times ever get tough for you down the line and you feel like, you know, you're running into issues with housing, be worth picking up the phone to the Cork Alliance.
Thanks.
Because they'll help you. It doesn't matter if you've been out of prison for years. Yeah. The fact that you've been in prison, you're from Cork, you qualified, you know what I mean? Yeah. And they, like, we'd still, you know, be friendly with Sheila over there as well. And I know she always...
I know her actually, Sheila, the blondie here.
No, that's Vicky. No, Vicky. There's a couple of blonde... Sheila is the manager.
Oh, the CEO. Is she?
Well, she wouldn't like you saying that, no, like. And she listens as well. She's one of the first people that listens every week. So, hi, Sheila, you're definitely not old looking. The young one. But you know what? It's just an option that's there for you, and it doesn't matter how long you've been out, if you know. But it'd be important as well for you, just to, things is good now, right? But you know what happens now when you're in that place, right? I've been in that place and I thought I was cured and I fell flat on my face a few rounds down the line when life gets tough, because it doesn't matter who you are, life gets tough for everybody. But you know, at this time, why I didn't fall flat on my face, you know, when times was good, I kept going to the meetings, the 12 steps, the counselling, the group work, aftercare, personal development, and look, because you know what you're doing when you're good and you're doing that.
Yeah.
You're putting all that stuff into the bank.
Yeah.
And you know when times is tough down the line,
Yeah.
you lose a job, you don't get the course, your girlfriend sends you on,
Yeah.
you cash in,
Yeah.
all that stuff, and that prevents you from going flat in your face. So that would be my advice for you: is things is good now, but now this is where you drive it on.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. It's like when we get to a certain place in life where we're not as traumatized, we're not as depressed, and we're not as anxious as we were 12 months ago.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm comfortable here. We stop all the development.
Yeah.
Then
It sneaks back in.
Keep going, because there's loads of healing there.
Definitely.
Just have to keep going, and we'll be at it for the rest of our lives.
Oh, definitely.
You know, which is great.
Because you know what, you'd be the more self-aware people going around the gaffs, you know?
Yeah.
And like all that shit that's after happening to you in your lives, you know what, you're just getting so much awareness around no coping skills, and you're going to help the next people, like me and Timmy help others now, and
That's
you're
what
going
I
to,
wanna do,
like, people would have, like, you were on a pathway where it was addiction in prison, and now you've nipped it in the bud, and you're going to go on, and you'll probably, in time, you might go back to the life centre and help the next person coming up, you know, and you, all those negative life experiences are an asset, you know, because no matter, like, college can't give you that lived experience.
Exactly.
You know, if you got the college piece on top of that, not saying no that you have to, like.
I'm going in September. That's
If you get that college piece with that lived, that's a very valuable asset.
Definitely, yeah.
For a life centre or a cool mind or the table lodge we just did a podcast with Mick Devine there. You know, to have that is ideal, you know. But I'm going to come back, John. So, Amber, talk to me about the book. Poetry.
Yeah.
You're a poet.
Apparently.
Well, it's a beautiful book. And it has 55 poems. Now, the first one is I'm after spotting, and I like it. Goodbye, my psycho firefly. Did you write that one for Timmy?
That's a trick.
How did you know?
So it's actually Firefly, Goodbye My Firefly, and then Goodbye My Psycho Firefly.
Oh, is
it's
it?
a trilogy, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, I kind of started writing poetry as a coping mechanism once I kind of opened up about my sexual assault to Don and my mom and everything. I kind of started off like rewriting other kind of poets' poems that I liked. And then Don said to me, like, why don't you write your own? And I literally laughed in his face. I was like, no, that's just not something I'm going to do. I think it's actually that same day, me and Thomas and another student were going on a walk for Japanese class, and a poem literally just came to me. And it just all started from there. Really.
Isn't it great though, how, like, I don't know if you watch our podcast, you don't have to answer that now. But we had a very famous psychiatrist on the podcast, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, and he's the leading expert in the world on PTSD, right? And we spoke about all the different alternative ways people heal from trauma. And one of the big things he spoke about is arts, drama, poetry, dance, music and stuff like that. So the fact that you found something that'll help you on top of the other stuff now. And I often think about it like this way as well. Me and Timmy, like, we created this podcast out of an idea, and we didn't know anybody that did anything like this. We're in recovery, you know, and this is how we talk about this stuff now. Like, you write it down in the form of poetry. We talk about it, share it in the form of a podcast. But it's the same idea, really. Yeah. You're using words, you're putting it out there for people to help others. And it's not that, like, this will be very helpful, the podcast will be very helpful, but you still have to do the counselling, you still have to, it's a part of the regime, isn't it? A holistic approach, you know? But I'd say that was very therapeutic for you to do that. Yeah,
I used to write like maybe 5 poems every day, and they're all basically the same. And I'm still writing poems now, but nowadays it's kind of different themes, different topics, and
because you've changed.
Yeah.
You're not, I read some of your poems a while ago, and when I was understanding them, I could understand where you are in your life at that time.
Yeah.
You know, because when I was in prison, I was writing songs for music, and when I look at them now, I wouldn't write the same music because I'm not caught up in the depression as I was back then. So my songs now would be different. There'd be probably a lot of love songs, upbeat songs and stuff like that. You know, but back then there really, really, really showed where I was in my life.
Yeah.
I was in early recovery. I was depressed. I was going through a lot in prison. But I was looking at the books, and I can imagine that your poems now are like, they are very, very important.
Yeah.
Because what those poems do, when we go back and reflect on them, we get great gratitude for how far we've came.
And it's a great escape as well. Like even now, if I'm like upset about something or like upset for someone else, I just put it into a poem and I can just leave it there. And it is really good.
That's a great way to express yourself.
I know. Like to have that coping skill so young. Do you know when I used to feel upset and things like that when I was 23? The off license is what I went to.
Yeah.
But you know what? It was the same thing. That was the coping skill that was what I know was a coping skill to help me deal with any anxiety or stress. But the fact that you found something that's very creative, like the problem is when you look at people that are in addiction, it's not like, oh, look at him drinking, wasting his life away. He's doing something to help soothe whatever is going on for him. And that's why he's available to him. If you just have a bit of an understanding, get him in the door and help him and maybe expose him to poetry, because he may never, and I'm talking in general, no, I'm not talking about anybody in particular, but like to be exposed to poetry, you might never in your life have been exposed to poetry until somebody highlights it, yeah? And then you might find, fucking hell, this is brilliant. And all of a sudden you don't need to drink no more, or at least it's less appealing. And that's what we found, well, we've been in recovery for a few years before the podcast, but education, it was for me. Somebody showed me the pathway through UCC, and when I found education, I was like, fucking hell, started building this life for me. All of a sudden, the drinking the drugs doesn't look so appealing anymore because I started to get a nice life over here with this. But before it was UCC, I didn't really know where I was going with my life. And there was a part of me thinking, maybe I'll have a drink one of the days, maybe. But when I went to UCC and I started to get my qualifications and jobs, then I knew I wasn't going back there. So it's great to have that coping skill. But I'll come back there. How's the family?
Too bad way.
They all right?
Yeah.
You were in Geneva.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
Well, Dan came to me. He was, there was this fellow over there, a professor. I don't know, there was loads of stuff going on there at the time, but he was doing a study on children deprived of liberty and how like people who are under 18 who have been locked up. I think it's specifically they were kind of like focusing on over there. Seeing like America now, like people crossing the border, kids being kept in those kind of facilities.
Ice.
Yeah? And how it would affect your
units,
brain's only developing at our age, like, and how that has been affecting people. And I went over and I done a speech, like, and I just basically, I told them about my experience of being locked up when I was younger and how I ended up there and like how I ended up in the life centre after. And then I was like, I needed to start focusing on my education if I don't want to have this life, like, and it was basically about that, like, but it was amazing. It was a good experience.
Was that a part of the United Nations thing?
Yeah, in there, yeah. It was crazy.
Unreal.
I didn't experience how, I didn't know much about it, really. And then when Dan told me, and when I agreed to it, and then he told me how much of a big thing it was, I was nervous. But
put it this way, right? If you're invited to speak at a United Nations event, like, there's a very select few people in the world get asked for anything like that.
I met so many people over. I met the Irish ambassador, French ambassadors. There was loads of big heads over there, like, you know. Yeah. But it was a good experience.
I'd love to speak at it. What would we get invited at, Timmy? The United Nations Convention in Norris. But it's unreal, isn't it? Like when you're coming from like 8 different schools, a lot of different care homes, addiction, Alberstown, like to speak at a United Nations conference about your experiences, strength and no hope. Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Crazy, yeah.
And you know what? It's very important that people like you and me and Amber and James and everybody here speak about our experiences as well, because a lot of those people in that room probably wouldn't be able to relate to their own experiences because they might have had different upbringings, and it's important that we tell them how it is on the other side as well.
Yeah, exactly.
You
know? Your plan is to go to college in September.
Yeah.
What are you interested in doing?
Psychology. I'm going to go to Waterford as well. Kind of the same road Amber's after going down. Like.
So you paved the way now for the other people coming behind you. It's true.
It's it, yeah.
All it takes is one person to do it in the community.
Yeah.
And others see, do you know what? Like I said a while ago, I thought UCC was for rich people. And I met my wife, and she's from Churchfield, which is next to us, where I'm from. And she showed me that wasn't just for rich people. All of a sudden that door becomes open and you've done it now for the likes of Lee.
Yeah.
He says, you know what, I know her. With
Exactly.
greatest respect to Amber.
Yeah.
She's not fucking anything high and mighty. She's just like me with similar life experience. We born in the Life Centre. There's not to say you can't do, and the next person, and that's how this thing works.
That's one of the main reasons, like, because like I've been through a lot now, like as a young fella.
Yeah.
So I can empathize, like I can feel what other young people are on about, like, because I've been to some guys there now, like a psychologist, and it's more like tick the box, like, you know what I mean? They're just asking the questions that are on the paper. Mm. But if I went into psychology, I'd like to work with young people my age and guide them and give them the advice that I wish I had when I was that age, you know?
You will be doing that.
Thanks.
You're on the road to it. This is the next step, but that's happening for you.
Yeah.
That's what you're destined to do.
That's it.
To help others.
Yeah.
Because there's no better vocal to do it. No better vocal. And you're the leader.
Watch the party scenes down Waterford as well.
I know, yeah. We don't want you back on the podcast again. Like, usually when you're on this podcast means things went tits up again, you know what I mean?
Oh, Jesus.
But the next time you're on this podcast, it'll be because you're a psychologist talking about your area of expertise.
Exactly.
You know, that'd be an honour to have you back on.
Yeah.
The two of you actually, when you have your PhD, Amber, Dr. Amber, sorry, excuse me.
That's it.
But listen, there's so many possibilities and opportunities and availability. You have your whole life's ahead of you, and you're in a good place, you know, emotionally, you know, psychologically. You know, there's so much potential there for you.
Yeah.
You know, did you meet many interesting people over in the UN?
I did, yeah. I met this woman from Cork, actually. What's her name? Ursula Kilkelly. She's a professor in criminology in the
law.
UCC. Is it law? Yeah. Her, everyone over there was interesting to me, to be honest, like, because it was out of my, I never experienced anything like it before. But it was great as well, like, you know, after, like, it was pure formal at the start, but then, like, all the people who were involved in the experiment and all, we all went for dinner down to some nice place over, I don't know, but it was just great, like.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Gas, isn't it? No, he went over to Geneva to meet anybody interested, and the first thing he says, a Cork.
I know, yeah.
He's just straight for the familiar, isn't it? But is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Before I want to close, I wonder if you'd read us a poem to close us off with.
Okay.
Go on.
I'll let you decide which one. But we'll wait. Just give me 2 seconds. Is there anything you wanted to talk about before we wrap it up?
Anything on your
In your little spreadsheet there?
If there's something coming up for
well,
you.
I would like to say, like, to all the other survivors that it is hard to, like, tell people, and it is hard to ignore the resentment and the judgment from society and the isolation. But whenever you are ready to talk about it, there is people here and our voices will be heard.
Exactly. Well said. Bull of bus, I'd say, for that, yeah. Bull of bus. And if people are interested in that, we did a podcast with Mary Crilly, the director of the Sexual Violence Centre. People want to watch that. More information on that.
Yeah, the one with, what was that lady's name?
Georgina.
Yeah, Georgina and Hazel.
Yeah, so
we've powerful as well.
Covered that topic. So thanks for bringing it up, Amber, in a very dignified way. You spoke really well, and I know it's a very difficult topic. You know, so fair play to you. And will you please close us off with one of your poems?
I'll read Memory Lane because it's the first one I've ever wrote. Okay. I took a stroll down memory lane, down the Mardyke walkway. As my nightmare came flashing back, I couldn't seem to walk off this terrifying track. I kept stopping and looking back, scared that someone would stab me in the back. I was paranoid, I was fearful, the path was becoming dark. As I heard the crows caw, there was whistling in the trees. As my knees became weak, this was not a nightmare, most certainly not a dream. This was my head persuading me that not everything is as it seems. The demons living inside me scream, run, run, run. I do not listen. I just stop and stare at the girl who I once was, pathetic and scared.
Very good.
How are you feeling?
Good.
Good.
That was very good.
Yeah.
I might give away a copy of that to the patrons, actually.
Well done.
Can people buy that?
Well, it's up in the Life Centre.
Oh,
Yeah.
brilliant. So if people want a copy of it, they can contact us and we'll signpost. But listen, it's been lovely talking to the two of you.
Yeah, thank you
thanks
for
very
having
much,
us.
lads.
And Lee, privileged to talk to you.
Thanks.
Hope to get you back a few years down the line.
100%.
See how life is working on for you. And if you need anything from us in the meantime, just pick up the phone. Friends at the Life Centre forever.
Nice.
And thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Thomas.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. God bless.
Slán.